Brenda, it's the first time we've seen you this year. Happy New Year, and how are you?
And to all of you. Actually, yes, Christmas and New Year has been really odd for everybody I know. We had good and bad. I'll give you the good first of all, because BBC Northern Ireland decided to make an hour-long documentary about my life on TV. It's very flattering to be asked. But I have to say, it's a bit gobsmacking when you see it all stitched together and lots of photographs and clips that you've forgotten about. So 8 decades is a long time. Yes, what's very emotional about all of that is a lot of the clips, of course, I've actually forgotten about, or pictures that I've never seen before. But I just think it's quite overwhelming when you see everything stitched together and it's all about yourself. But for the family, it's been fantastic. For posterity, they'll have it. So they'll be saying, this is what your granny used to look like, and this is what she used to do. And my grandchildren can't believe that I used to spin vinyl, et cetera, all by myself. So they were a bit amazed at all of that.
Does.
So
it looks
good.
really, really amazing. And for anyone at home who wants to see it, it's on BBC iPlayer at the moment. And Gloria, that brings me on to my next question, because I wanted to ask you, have you had your vaccine yet? Because, of course, that's all in the news at the moment.
You're looking at a desperate woman. I am out of the postbox every single day. I have phoned my GP clinic, I don't know how many times. I'm honestly not trying to jump a queue, but I'm desperate to have the vaccine. And one of my sons actually looked up online how many over 80-year-olds there are in the Seven Oaks area. And he came up with a figure, whether it's right or not, of 2,500. So I'm thinking, if the vaccine got here last Tuesday, last week, why haven't I got the call yet? So I'm desperate. I really want to have it.
And one of your sons, I believe, had COVID, didn't he, over Christmas?
That's the bad news over Christmas. Paul and his wife, Lisa, had it for 3 weeks. And Paul has asthma, not badly, but enough with a puffer and all that kind of thing. There were 3 days when he couldn't even talk to me because he was so short of breath. And I know that a lot of people in this country have had terrible situations, not able to see their partner or their children or their dad or whatever the case may be. Again, as a parent, I was desperate to go and see Paul to see exactly how he was, but of course you can't. No. And that gave me a little insight as to how bad it is.
Janet, I know you're keen to have the vaccine.
I'm about as keen as Gloria.
Do you feel that the rollout's been fair in the way that they're planning to do it?
Well, I'm a bit worried by the stories that I've been reading in the newspaper about the bosses of care homes getting vaccinated before the actual residents or frontline staff are. And that's happened. I mean, the Daily Mail's and other newspapers have charted quite a few cases of that happening. And I also think that we've got to have complete transparency about who's getting it and in what order. And, you know, if Gloria hasn't got it and there are, I do worry. And then yesterday, the extra worry was that the Royal Mail, the post office, announced that there are serious problems, especially in London, but in various parts of the country, with delivering the post. So I realised I haven't had any post at all for 3 days, and then I've had a couple of Christmas cards, and I'm hoping that this isn't going to affect the rollout of the vaccine. And apparently this morning in Prime Minister's Questions, Boris Johnson said the vaccine centres are going to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is a good thing. And I just hope that anyone who needs a helper to get them there, anyone who's older who hasn't got a car or transport, let neighbours come, let people help out.
I think the Prime Minister threw in the phrase as well, at some point.
Yeah, well, that's always the worry with Boris. Anything like he said, I sat there and watched the broadcast where he said, my age group, the over 70s, we would get it by February the 16th. Well, bring it on, Boris.
Gloria?
Totally agree with Janet, of course. And if I had to go to a centre at 4 in the morning, I would go. I'm that keen to get it, so I'll drive myself. Or maybe, Janet, you take me anyway, just in case.
Yeah, I'll make an illegal detour to do
Brenda, what do you think about the group lists of how it's being rolled out?
I agree with what Janet is saying about, you know, there are front key line workers. You know, you've got the delivery drivers who deliver to the elderly. That's the sort of people that I'm thinking about that are in touch. They're in touch with these general people, the general public. And you know, you've got an elderly person who's been shielding all this time, but the only kind of contact that they have is with a delivery driver who might have to bring the stuff in because they're not able-bodied themselves. So people like the teachers, delivery drivers, you know, the nurses, civil servants, and all those people that are the key workers, the bus drivers that are being really affected, you know, I think that they should have that vaccination so that at least if you're coming into contact, they're coming into contact with so many people.
So that sounds
it keeps that down.
That sounds a bit more like China's policy, which is to vaccinate workers, because they're sort of saying, well, the elderly are not economically viable.
Well, they're the ones
so
that are keeping the country going at the moment.
Do you think there's an argument for that, Janet?
Well, being completely selfish, I would be very unhappy to have my vaccination date pushed back because I'm a baby boomer and so many people of my generation, people aged 65 and over, are working and are contributing to the economy. So just because we happen to be older, I don't think we should be vaccinated later because all the statistics still show that we are very vulnerable. And I'm coming to work because I love work and I've taken every precaution necessary. But I think also there's another worry at the back of my head, which is that people with money will try to jump the queue and try to buy their way into the NHS supply.
Well, there's the other argument, isn't there? What about if they offered it privately? Now, that totally would happen, that people with money would jump the queue. But then, would that not then alleviate the burden on the NHS? Because, A, the taxpayers wouldn't be paying for X person to have a jab, and they wouldn't be turning up at the NHS centres in front of other people. Do you think that's an idea, Gloria?
Well, I don't agree with getting it privately, and I hated that scam the other day. There's so many COVID scams about that poor 92-year-old woman where somebody looking medical turned up at the door and said, for 150 quid, I'll give you the jab. And you can see how some people might get sucked into that. I don't agree with jumping in the queue, but I am desperate to take my place in the queue, if I can put it like that.